Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com, and today I'm going to be taking your questions on getting assaulted, 2.8 Quattro, steering wheel alignments, and more. This is episode 186 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. All right, in order to get a question on a show like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com, right down here on the bottom of your screen. Put question for Charles in the subject. Ask your question right at the top, then give me the details down below. That really helps me out a ton when answering your questions. Also, if you don't see your question on a show like this, be sure to check out the quick videos playlist on YouTube where I take one question per video. All right, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, which is CRP Automotive. CRP deals in a ton of OE maintenance and repair parts, timing belt kits, suspension components, and even fluids. In fact, they make the factory DSG fluid for Volkswagen and Audi. So check them out at crpautomotive.com. And don't forget, if you want to help support the show, get exclusive content, access to VW training manuals that I build, as well as discounts you can get nowhere else to places like Adams Polishes, Eurowise, Eastwood, Sonic Tools, and more. Check out the Crew Membership program. The link is down in the description. It's an awesome program and a great way to help you save a ton of money along with supporting me and the show. All right, with all that wrapped up, let's get into your questions. First one comes from Nipple, which apparently is just a nickname. I was working on getting a clutch master cylinder installed one day when I was hit from behind by something in the right temple by someone. I have found out that it was a mentally unstable man that's convinced I'm working with Nazis to kidnap and torture him before we turn him over to the government. I'm not sure how I got his reality entangled in my reality, but result wasn't desirable to me. I have a broken jaw and 14 fractures to my orbital socket area. Have you ever had to deal with anyone who has tried to cause you harm or property damage? And if so, what's your thoughts on overcoming the fallout and recovery of production? Is it even worth it to try? Wow, dude, that's crazy. So, like a really crazy situation, right? First and foremost, in my opinion, it's the responsibility of your employer to make sure things like this don't happen. The safety of not only them, but their coworkers, meaning you, is of the utmost importance. So this situation probably should have never happened to begin with. I guess, when it comes to like getting back to it and what can you do, treat this like any other leave. Use this opportunity to do what you can do to keep your skills sharp, to keep your knowledge sharp. Obviously, you're going to be limited with your vision and maybe some mobility issues, depending on just how severe that is. I'm imagining like your face all swollen up. So you might be reading with one eye for your books to keep up with technology and what current things are going on in your shop or in your dealership. But that's kind of the easy part of this, is just keep working. Don't become slack-off-ish and just forget about it. Keep up with your training to keep your brain sharp, even if your like motor skills maybe aren't going to be 100% perfect. And if they're still pretty good, get out to the garage and keep wrenching yourself. I have no idea what kind of recovery time this would even be. I'd imagine it's some time. We just had a guy out for almost 6 full months because he blew his knee out. And I'm sure that first week, he's only really been back a week, and I'm sure that first week was really challenging for him to get back in the flow of it. But I imagine once you get back in the flow of it, you'll be just fine. This is such a weird, crazy circumstance for getting hurt this way that I don't even really know what to say. I have no idea what the recovery time is. It's just an insane set of circumstance. So I would take time. I would work with the doctors, obviously, and focus on getting yourself better. From there, man, if this is someone that has like a legit diagnosed mental disability, then that's, one set of ways to handle it. And I really don't have any advice. I'm definitely not an attorney or anything near that, so I don't want to give you bad advice. Then there's the coworker that's just a freaking psycho. That one is a little bit easier to handle, I think, because you should be able to deal directly with your employer on up if need be with that. But man, I am really sorry that you got hurt. I hate it for you. The recovery time is probably going to be terrible, especially dealing with, swollen, probably reduced vision. I really hope that you make a good, speedy, and full recovery. I really wish I had better advice for this, but this one caught me totally out of left field. So unfortunately, I'm not helped, but I just wanted to, one, give you a little bit of advice for staying current with what's going on in the automotive world, and two, and more importantly, really wish you a healthy, speedy, and full recovery. All right, next one comes from Bill, and one I'm a bit more qualified to answer. Considering buying a 99 Audi Quattro 2.8 V6 from a friend. It has high mileage, 200,000 miles. It has new tires, and the only failing is it needs a timing chain tensioner. Can you suggest anything in particular to keep in mind, avoid, or really redeeming about this car? I've owned my fair share of US and Japanese badged vehicles, but never a European. Any input would be appreciated. So this is very similar to the B5, 5.5 generation Passat. It's an Audi Quattro. I assume it's an A4, which means it's really, really close. So I'm going to put a link to the top 5 failures of the B5, 5.5 Passat. That's going to cover a lot of issues that the Audi had as well. And that's things like oil leaks, suspension bushings wearing out, axle boots, leaks, coolant leaks, power steering leaks, transmission leaks, all the leaks, right? Water leaks inside the car. Watch that video. It'll give you a lot of good things to check. On a car that needs a cam chain tensioner or a timing chain tensioner, that can be a pretty big job. Those things can also be stupid expensive if you need the whole entire unit. If you just need the pads for the chain or something like that, they're really not that bad. I love this generation car. I think they drive incredible, but they will have their fair share of issues, and the big negative on these is they're expensive to fix. I mean, parts are still really, really expensive for this. So keep that in mind. You know, you're buying it from a friend. Are you paying 300 bucks for it? Then, so what? Are you paying $3 grand for it? Well, $3 grand for this kind of car better be in pretty damn good condition. I would probably also pay and get a pre-purchase inspection, because up on a lift, full inspection view, you're going to probably find more things wrong with it than maybe just looking at it laying on the garage floor or something like that. So again, I love this generation car. Oil leaks, suspension bushings, axle boots, gas tanks leaking on this generation wasn't terribly uncommon. Brakes, you said it's got new tires. That's great. Leaks, timing belt, water leaks on the inside, all that kind of stuff. So a lot can be wrong with it. Despite all of that, again, I really like this generation of Volkswagen and Audi. All right, next one comes from Addison. Hey, Charles, I'd like to know what you think about tuning and programming software for VW and Audi. I'm an automotive technician myself, and I'm considering buying one. I've heard you can reprogram secondhand modules to suit different vehicles, and to me, this appears that it would be a pretty handy tool to have around the shop. Love the show. Thanks for the kind words, man. So, you're looking for VW Audi, you're looking to do modules, vag-com's the way to go. I like OBD11 for an enthusiast, or I should say an enthusiast. I think the tool's great. I like the interface of OBD11 a lot. But if you're going to be doing things like coding, programming, adapting, I really like vag-com for that. I've done a video about it, a couple of videos about it that I'll try and link up for you. You can check that out. But honestly, man, that's the way to go. Now, if you are doing things like immobilizer or component protection modules, this is on newer gen stuff, component protection anyway, immobilizer's been around for a while. vag-com won't always get it done, so you're going to need something else. You can look for something called vag-taco. That'll do more of the immobilizer stuff. And then there's always the option of the factory scan tool. Otis isn't cheap. It's pretty expensive. But if you're a professional VW Audi technician, then it's really worth the money to have exactly what the factory has. That means you can do software updates. You can do everything I can as a dealer technician with your scan tool. So keys, modules, component protection, guided fault finding, which can be a huge savior. All that stuff you can do with the full-blown Otis program. Like I said, it's expensive. You're paying, I think it's like $4,500 plus $1,500 a year for the Audi and VW license together. So it's expensive, but think about how much money a shop that isn't properly equipped with this type of scan tool spends on or loses on sending cars out to the dealership to program keys, to recode modules, to unlock modules after component protection when they're replaced. Something to consider. But if you're just putting in a module and coding it, then vag-com is the way to go. $600 or whatever it costs now, There's also other ones, the Snap-on, Modus, or whatever the Highline one is. I don't even remember what it's called. Those some of them can do it, but they tend to be pretty limited on the European stuff. And if you're not working on American cars, then there's no point in paying for that on top of, buying a scan tool, because you're still, in my opinion, going to want vag-com anyway. So there's a ton out there, and I'm a little bit narrow-sighted in this field because I use vag-com, I use OBD11 a little bit, and I use the factory stuff. So that's where my heavy experience is. So I'm going to reach out to the audience. If you guys know of any other scan tools that Addison can use to do European car stuff, code modules, things like that, please post it down in the comments and let him know and try and help him out so he doesn't waste $4 grand on something that he doesn't need at all. All right, last one of the day comes from Cyprian. Sorry if I butchered your name, man. My steering wheel is slightly oriented towards the right. Hey, Charles, I've changed the roller bearing on my Mark IV on the right wheel, and after that I've noticed that my steering wheel is oriented towards the right. Is there any chance my mechanic did something wrong? Also, my ESP light is on, scan says G200 sensor, but before everything was okay. So by roller bearing, I'm assuming that's going to mean the wheel bearing. Let's talk about the steering wheel first. When you do those wheel bearings, you are technically supposed to do an alignment on them as well. There is actually a slight bit of adjustment on the control arm where the lower ball joint goes in. It's not really an adjustment, but the holes in the control arm are slightly slotted, so you can move the move the ball joint in and out. And that's going to affect camber, and that can affect toe, which can make your steering wheel wonky. It doesn't really, but in the case that we're talking about, the toe being out can make the steering wheel off-centered. So first thing you want to do, before you even worry about the G200 fault, which is a lateral acceleration sensor fault, you want to get an alignment, because it's probably just a simple adjustment and it'll be fine. If the toe is out a little bit or one wheel is wonky, it can give you a problem and a fault for one of the sensors. I'm not saying that is what's happening. It may require a basic setting, but if you have vag-com, you should be able to go into the basic settings of ABS and check and see, and it'll probably give you a procedure to do that basic setting. It's not something I've had to do in years and years and years, and it may just result in doing the appropriate test drive to get this code to go away. But I really would highly recommend you get it aligned first before you do anything, before you pay diagnosis. I would take it back to the guy that did the bearing and talk to him about it and ask why they didn't recommend an alignment, first of all, but ask that they align the car for you, show you the printout so you can see whether that right wheel was all wonky or not, and then go from there. Odds are, if it didn't have a problem before, that code will probably clear right out, and you won't have a problem with it once the alignment gets straightened out. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Questions, comments, you know what to do. Hey, if you like this video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe right here on YouTube. Don't forget to ding the bell, or over on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Don't forget, if you want exclusive discounts you can get nowhere else, training manuals for VW and Audi that me and a colleague build, as well as exclusive videos from me. Check out the Crew Membership program. I'd like to officially welcome Adams Polishes on. They're giving crew members a large and in charge discount of 15% off everything. So shout out to those dudes. I really appreciate you guys stepping up and taking care of the crew members. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.